Hey guys, have you heard about ToneX? Just kidding, of course you have. So, is this just another video playing some sounds, talking about the features, the specs, and worrying about not having an FX loop? No, of course not. So, what can I bring to the table amidst all the other channels, all the other videos there are? Well, I thought we could do a comparison together, comparing the two best capturing devices there are right now, the Quad Cortex and ToneX. And let's also shed some light on a few lesser talked about aspects of ToneX and capturing or profiling, whichever way you want to call it. But first things first, who am I and why should you listen to me? Hi, my name is Max, I play guitar and I've been working as a sound engineer, live and in the studio for almost 15 years now. I have been using an XFX2 for years, have owned Fractal, Line 6 Helix, Camper, Quad Cortex and a bunch of amp modeling plugins that you all know. Which means I have experience with a lot of the available capturing and modeling devices. And also I'm a gear nerd, yeah, guilty as charged. So I just got the ToneX pedal and software after a producer and songwriter friend told me like he couldn't make out the difference between his captures and his relamps and started selling off awesome gear. Well, of course I had to check that out. Now there are a few things I wanted to check out about the ToneX pedal that are essential to me. Besides sound and modeling, capturing accuracy, of course. These are, for example, the pedal's latency and possible audio dropout when switching presets. And let's also look at capturing fuzz sounds, which is one of the Achilles heels of the Quad Cortex, but I have a hunch there's more to it and we'll talk about that later in the video. Of course, everything is timestamped in the description below, so feel free to skip to the parts that interest you the most. So let's start with the driven rock sound. We'll hear the relamp first, then ToneX, Quad Cortex, and back to the relamp, so you can compare relamp to both of the modeling devices, capturing, profiling, whatever. And you also can compare both devices to each other. So, let's start. But Max, does it gent? Of course, I want you to test the captures and models I did today yourself. Download them from Cortex Cloud or ToneNet. The info is in the description below. But be aware that, of course, the sound will greatly depend upon the IR or cap you're using. And as I'm using York Audio myself for this video, I can't share the IR. By the way, would you be interested in IR packs of my caps? Let me know. This is the first time I'm sharing a preset or capture, and I'm aware that trying another person's presets can be very hit and miss. It can either be way too bass heavy or too bright for you, depending on our difference in signal chain. By the way, I'm using a mix of York Audio EVH 4x12 IRs that I did myself. Should you be looking for great IRs, I can highly recommend York Audio. And if you try the captures or models, please let me know how they work out for you. I'm really curious in how they translate in your environment. Wow, that was fun. So let's continue with an exciting and absolutely not boring and dry topic like latency. Bear with me, okay? Let me just try to very briefly explain to you why I think how much latency there's in a device we use in our signal chain is important and why it's important that we are aware of it. You ever so often read in forums or comments when somebody mentions latency in a digital device, be it model or pedal, whatever, that it doesn't matter. It's so minute, you can't even hear or feel it. And then off we go into the unsound arguments and personal feelings. The thing is, yes, you are right. The minute latency of a Helix, XFX or Quad Cortex is negligible. Oh, don't get me started about the Quad Cortex and latency. And 1.8 milliseconds of an HXFX or an XFX2 is only equivalent to standing 61.7 centimeters further away from your cab. But that's only when you're looking at that one device on its own. So what happens when you're using a digital wireless system like a Line 6 or a Stage Clicks? Another digital pedal without an analog drive-through like the Eventide H9 at 2.25 milliseconds. Or when you put something into your Model S loops, that's another conversion, so adding latency. So as the Quad Cortex made us aware that fixed latency shouldn't be taken for granted, is the ToneX latency fixed and how much latency does it have? Well, I measured it. It's not fixed latency. So be aware of that when layering ToneX pedal reamps, although you might just use the plugin then. Down the rabbit hole I go. So anyway, I measured multiple presets, stock ones from the cloud, my own tone models, and latency varies between all of them and also changes whether you're using the built-in cap sim or not. So here you can see the results of all my measurements. Also note that I measured the default and advanced model I did for the Synergy Herbert, and there's no difference there. So to summarize, what should we take away from all of this? Well, the pedal has between 2.9 and 3.3 milliseconds of latency with the built-in cap sim and 2.4 to 3 milliseconds without the built-in cap sim, which is okay, but not groundbreaking, like for example a sub 1 millisecond latency like the Boss GT1000. So what shall we do with these numbers now? Well, for me there are two scenarios that are worth keeping in mind. One is live use, where I'd like to stay below a total latency from my hands to my ears of 10 milliseconds. So ToneX can be a third of that already. And the other one is studio use, where if you're running multiple amps or reamps of ToneX pedal in parallel, they need to be time aligned and phase coherent, which is where variable latency can be problematic. In the end, ToneX pedal's latency is negligible by its own. You just need to keep it in mind if you're running it with other digital devices like a wireless system, effects, mixing desks, like the found everywhere Behringer X32. That's another latency if you're running in-ears. I started dialing in a fuzz sound, doing a ToneX model, doing a Quad Cortex capture. And quite frankly, there's no sense in comparing them. Here you can hear the original sound going guitar into fuzz. And here's the captured sound. But it isn't the captured sound. It's actually just the same rig, but with a buffer between the guitar and the fuzz pedal. And this is the problem. How often have you heard about a fuzz pedal not reacting properly and not sounding the same when you have something before it, like a pedal or a wah-wah or whatever? The thing is with fuzz, or with so many fuzzes, the guitar pickups and the fuzz pedal interact. If you have something in between that is an active circuit or that's changing the impedance that the fuzz sees or that the pickup sees, it changes the interaction. Now the problem is you will never capture the sound of your fuzz pedal the same way that it's sounding and reacting to your guitar going straight in. This is why I have my rig cabled, going guitar to fuzz pedals and then split to DI and everything else. There's nothing in between the guitar and the fuzzes. If you capture it, there's the capture out or the reamp box out or whatever. I guess that's physics. But I did the captures already, so I have a Quad Cortex capture and a ToneX model of my silk tone fuzz going into a Bogner Shiver inspired preamp. And as they're here, I'll share them of course. Alright, what's the conclusion now? Well, I can and will tell you my thoughts, but of course the comparison's there for you to make up your own mind. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. Straight to the point, I think ToneX modeling accuracy is better, and for studio, for songwriting, the hardware and software combination is absolutely killer. The Quad Cortex is of course a unit capable of much more than just capturing, but for capturing my own sounds and amps in the studio, I guess I'll be moving on using ToneX. That said, I'm very curious what the future might bring. As IK has the X-Series effects pedals, a unit combining ToneX modeling and the X-Series effects in one unit could be a Kemper and Quad Cortex killer, a true one, including effects and everything, and then a fixed loop even. For like 1 to 1,500 euros maybe? That'd be dope. The ToneX pedal seems like a proof of concept of their modeling and a pretty successful one at that. So regarding the preset switching delay, I didn't expect it to have none, as that's basically impossible from my understanding without having the next sound you want to go to already processing in the background or having already loaded in one way or the other. If you want something like that, you need to go with the Boss GT1000 or use a device like an XFX or a Quad Cortex, where you can circumvent this problem with having multiple amps loaded in the same presets and switching the amps or the channels in an XFX. Or in a Quad Cortex environment, you can have the parameters of an amp altered per scene, which is seamless. But of course, you can't switch from an EVH 5150 to a Plexi or something like that. So there are ways to circumvent this, but not in the ToneX. But guys, let's just be grateful for a moment where technology has arrived and what's possible in such a small package, no matter which small package you choose. Before I forget, let me just mention a small detail that is so huge in comparing the two different workflows for ToneX and Quad Cortex. Dear Neural DSP, listen up. In ToneX, after capturing and training the model, you have a comparison and you have a gain compensation knob. If somehow the trained model differs in gain level from your real amp setup, you can A/B them and you can fine-tune the gain and then save the model. This is immensely helpful for exactly matching the gain levels, which is something I have to do with the Neural DSP Quad Cortex every time. But not after capturing, but before, because I know it will turn out with different gain levels, as a Quad Cortex capture has always lower gain after capturing. I have no idea why. I have read about this in the Neural DSP forums. I have talked about this to other guys doing captures, other guys doing professional captures. And there's some kind of compensation going on that you need to do if you want to reach the same gain levels, as it always feels like the captured model has less gain. And there comes IK Multimedia and just does a gain up compensation, which is maybe just input gain that gets adjusted, but it's hard-coded in the model, and you don't have to worry about that later after saving. So, 5 points to Gryffindor! IK Multimedia, of course! One last thing I must mention is that the feel of a model or an amp can't translate through YouTube videos. I still feel a small difference when playing through either rig that I can't make out when I simply reamp and don't play myself. If you enjoyed the sounds in this video, try them for yourselves. Download link will be in the description. Also let me know if I should do more captures and tone models for you to try. Thank you for watching, guys. I don't need to tell you how YouTube works if you like the video. Just let me tell you that every like, every comment, every subscription helps me a lot, gives me feedback. Also leave me a comment if you think there's something I can improve upon or if there's something you didn't like. Thank you again. Until next time.